Given how good every single Harry Potter book is, there are always going to be debates about how each entry in the series ranks against the others. Whilst I do not think The Order of the Phoenix is the best Harry Potter book, it does get an unnecessary amount of criticism. So the purpose of this video is to respond to those who view The Order of the Phoenix as one of the less enjoyable Harry Potter books. I'm going to start by outlining some of the reasons why The Order of the Phoenix received criticism before offering a counter-argument for the criticisms I feel are harsh or unwarranted. And then I'll finish with the positives, the key aspects of the book that deserve praise, specifically those that are unique to The Order of the Phoenix. As most Harry Potter fans will know, The Order of the Phoenix is the longest book in the series. It contains a total of 38 chapters and 257,000 words. Now, a longer book does not always equate to a slower pace, but The Order of the Phoenix is undoubtedly the slowest as well as the longest book, and as such the pacing can sometimes be problematic for some people. J.K. Rowling has even admitted both The Goblet of Fire and The Order of the Phoenix are too long, so such criticism is not unwarranted at all. Whilst both the length and the pacing are the most frequent sources of criticism, I believe there are other factors that also contribute to why The Order of the Phoenix is disliked by some. The first of which is how angry Harry is during his 5th year, which by extent can make him a dislikable protagonist at times, particularly when he is unkind to Ron and Hermione. Another key reason, which I don't think is talked about enough, is the fact the mystery element in this book is less prevalent. There's still a central enigma, what is the weapon Voldemort is trying to steal, but there aren't deliberate clues laid out like in the previous 4 books. There's literally no way of knowing that Voldemort is after a prophecy the first time you read The Order of the Phoenix. And if we focus on the events at Hogwarts exclusively, there isn't really a mystery at all. The main plot is centred around Umbridge's gradual takeover of the school. Now, this latter point I don't feel has a counter-argument particularly, it's just something I felt I should flag up. Because 1, it's not talked about enough, and 2, because I think the mystery element of the first 4 books is pretty fundamental. But the length and the pacing and Harry's angst, I do have a response to both of those criticisms. So to begin with the former, when I was younger, I also felt The Order of the Phoenix was too long. For me, the most obvious part of the book that could have been trimmed is when Harry first gets to Hogwarts. From this point, there's about 125 pages that takes you through the day-to-day goings-on at Hogwarts that mostly revolves around Harry's lessons, Ron's admission into the Quidditch team, as well as getting to know Umbridge via her detentions and inspections of the other teachers. As a child, I always found this section a little mundane and meandering, and I can see why there isn't much actual plot progression. However, as an adult, I really enjoy these chapters. I don't mind that they're slow and slightly mundane. It's actually nice to get such a detailed look at the day-to-day happenings at Hogwarts. In short, I'm saying this criticism becomes less problematic as we get older, because typically adults have much longer attention spans than children, and also because the more you read these books, the more you start to appreciate the smaller details and the less significant story beats. As for Harry's angst, I've always found this an unfair criticism of The Order of the Phoenix for the simple reason that it makes complete sense. At the end of The Goblet of Fire, Harry witnesses Voldemort's return and he barely escapes with his life, and how is he rewarded? By months and months of slander and ridicule from the Ministry of Magic. And when he gets to Hogwarts, he is seen as a liar and an attention seeker by most of the students. If I'd been Harry in this situation, I would have been even more furious, so from my perspective, Harry's angst is completely understandable. It's also worth pointing out Harry isn't angst-ridden all the time. The rebellious nature of this book helps to lift the mood of the story slightly without compromising the overall tone. The obvious example here is the DA meetings, which give Harry a lot more agency, like he's fighting back against the system that is demonising him. And even when the DA is disbanded following Dumbledore's flight, the castle becomes even more rebellious against the new headmistress, thanks to the antics of Peeves, Fred and George, and plenty of other students as well, much to Harry's amusement. Still, there's no denying Harry is very angry for much of this book, but 1, he should be, and 2, he's not angry all the time. There is some nuance here. The Order of the Phoenix also has a number of unique aspects that deserve praise, some of which are talked about a lot, others less so. For me, one of the best elements of The Order of the Phoenix is the amount of world building. Other than the Deathly Hallows, Harry goes to more new locations in The Order of the Phoenix than any other book. At the start of the story, we're introduced to the Black family's house in the form of Grimmauld Place, and soon after we see the Ministry of Magic for the first time, which then comes back at the end when we get to see and learn more about the Department of Mystery specifically. The other key location is of course St Mungo's Hospital, where we see Lockhart and Neville's parents, which the movie sadly left out, and we're also introduced to new areas in places we're more familiar with. So for example, the Room of Requirement at Hogwarts, as well as the Hog's Head and Madame Puddifoot's tea shop in Hogsmeade. In addition to these new locations, there are also some great new characters. Towards the start of the novel, we are of course introduced to the various members of the Order of the Phoenix. Tonks is undoubtedly a fan favourite, but Kingsley Shacklebolt and Mundungus are also standout personalities. Luna Lovegood is then introduced on the Hogwarts Express, and she's immediately distinctive owing to her unconventional appearance and her unapologetically honest dialogue. Every time she makes an appearance in this book and the last two books, you can't help but like her. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the sadistic Bellatrix. Now technically, she first made an appearance in the Goblet of Fire when Harry was in the Pensieve, but the Order of the Phoenix is the first time we really get a look into how vile she is. She only features in a couple of chapters, but she is such a wicked villain she sticks in your mind long after finishing the book. As great as Bellatrix is, however, the best villain in the Order of the Phoenix would have to be Dolores Umbridge. I could make a whole video about why she's such a good villain. Rowling really nailed this character, making every aspect of her so repulsive. Yes, Voldemort is the most evil character in terms of his actions, but I think the most hated villain of the series is Dolores Umbridge. The final positive I want to mention is more thematic, and it centres around the political dynamic of the Order of the Phoenix. Rather than pushing a specific right-wing or left-wing message, which can almost always alienate your audience, Rowling instead addresses more general political themes such as state interference and censorship. Though this was touched upon in the Goblet of Fire with Rita Skeeter, the Order of the Phoenix grapples with these themes much more rigorously. The Daily Prophet essentially becomes the Ministry's way of shaping the opinion of the population by telling tales about Harry and Dumbledore. In essence, the political dynamic speaks to a bigger theme of the entire series, that of truth and how the truth is always better than lies. By contrast, the Ministry, led by Fudge, blatantly ignores Voldemort's return and instead chooses to ridicule those who are telling the truth. This political dynamic comes up again in the Deathly Hallows, but the Order of the Phoenix is the first book to really tackle such themes head on. So that is why I believe the Order of the Phoenix to be underrated. Too often I hear people complain about the length, the pacing and the angst without acknowledging the positive and unique aspects of the Order of the Phoenix. Whilst you do hear some people say the book is their favourite, it doesn't get as much love as it should. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think the Order of the Phoenix is underrated as well, or do you think it deserves some of the criticisms it receives? Other than that, it's goodbye from me until next time.